Hey guys, this is Vysh from Vysh IAS. So we are going to restart the Satish Chandra series as I explained in my previous video. If you have not watched that video, please watch that. It's just I think 10-minute video. Watch that so you'll understand why we are telling it as restarting. Okay, some chapters have been renamed in our playlist also, so you'll understand better if you watch the previous video. Okay, then we'll start here. So this is chapter number 1, India and the World. This is what we are going to start with, and this particular PDF you can download. Okay, you can just search in Google. You just search for Satish Chandra Medieval India class 11th, you will get it. Okay, it's a lot of portals have uploaded it for free, or it's there in Facebook also in a lot of pages which is related to UPSC. So you can download it and then use it for your personal reading. Okay, because the textbook has to be read. How much ever you watch free videos, you have to read textbook personally, and also solve MCQs and write answers for it, mains answers. Okay, high quality answers. It's not like just pick up whatever you feel and write. You have to write it in a very UPSC format, UPSC standard. Okay, so this India and the World, this first chapter is not very important. It is actually telling about the time 8th century. Okay, the 8th century AD, the time when the start of medieval India is medieval world is considered. That time across the world, what was happening? Okay, like Europe, Africa, Southeast Asia, everywhere, what all was happening. So it's just a lot of dynasty names will be there, or a lot of systems will be explained, like feudalism came into existence, or the clergy, what they were doing, or different kingdoms, what they were fighting for, like that, different stories of different continents. So it will be a beginning for you as the outline of how medieval world started. Okay, so we'll read through it. If it's important, I'll pause it and again explain to you, else we'll just read it. Okay, just focus. So many important changes took place in Europe and Asia after the 8th century. These changes not only altered the relationship between Europe and Asia, but also had a far-reaching effect on the thinking and pattern of living of the people. These developments had an indirect effect on India as well, since India had a large trade with the old Roman Empire. Okay, in ancient history, when we are learning the R.S. Sharma, which I have already completed all the chapters, you would have noticed that India, especially South India and all, we had lot of trade relation with the Roman Empire. Okay, in the ancient times itself, that is much before the 8th century. So now because of this, when time changes and different systems change across the world, it will affect India also, because of this relation which India has with the Western world. Now we'll go place wise. Okay, Europe is what they begin with. So in Europe, the mighty Roman Empire, which was the biggest empire you can tell of that time, ancient time, had broken into two by the third quarter of the 6th century. The western part, with its capital at Rome, had been overwhelmed by the Slav and Germanic tribesmen coming from the side of Russia and Germany. So Russia and Germany, you know, it is like in different sides. Russia is in the east and Germany is in the Europe, you can tell, western side of Europe. Okay, you should know where these places are. Okay, geographically, map wise, you should know all these places, especially countries and all. If you don't know, then that is very poor preparation. Okay, because we need as UPSC aspirants or mentors, we should know much more of detailing of what happens inside these countries. Okay, whether it's physical geography or the political maps. So countries and all, when we tell, immediately you should understand which is in the east, which is in the west. So tribesmen, okay, the Slav and Germanic tribesmen were entering at this time. Okay, when the mighty Roman Empire collapsed, you can tell. So these tribes came in many waves and indulged in a great deal of ravaging and plundering in the territories of the old Roman Empire. But in course of time, the tribes settled down in different parts of Europe, profoundly changing the character of the old population as well as the language and pattern of governments. So everything is changing. The foundations of many of the modern European nations were laid during this period as a result of the commingling of these tribesmen. Okay, so all these new people came, and so everything is changing, commingling with the local population. The eastern part of the old Roman Empire had its capital at Constantinople. Okay, so we saw like one side it is like Rome and another side is Constantinople. Constantinople is near the Turkey side. Okay, present day Turkey. It included most of Eastern Europe as well as modern Turkey, Syria and North Africa. Okay, so it's a huge thing. Okay, if you can relate to the map. Now this empire, which was called the Byzantine Empire, continued many of the traditions of the Roman Empire, such as strong monarchy and highly centralized administration. Okay, so central administration and strong monarch. Okay, however, in belief and ritual, it had many differences with the Catholic Church in the West, which had its headquarters at Rome. Okay, so one side it is Rome, another side it is Constantinople, and they are telling what is the differences and similarities. The church in the East was called the Greek Orthodox Church. Okay, in the East, it was due to its efforts and the efforts of the Byzantine ruler that Russia was converted to Christianity. Okay, so why Russian became a Christian? That is what they are explaining, because of these church activities. Modern Turkey and Syria, which were a part of the Byzantine Empire, also followed the Greek Orthodox Church. The Byzantine Empire was a large and flourishing empire which continued to trade with Asia after the collapse of Roman Empire in the West. It created traditions of government and culture, many of which were later absorbed by the Arabs when they overran Syria and Egypt. It also acted as a bridge between the Greco-Roman civilization and the Arab world, and later helped in the revival of Greek learning in the West. Okay, so they are telling how the western side collapsed, then the eastern side had trade relations and all, then Arabs will overrun that, and then lot of policies, government structure, everything will be adopted to the Arab side, and later it will come to India also. Okay, so it disappeared finally in the middle of the 15th century when Constantinople fell to the Turks. Okay, so middle of 15th century, because we started like the story from 8th century when the Roman Empire broke, and 15th century this Constantinople also will break. So this basic timeline all you should know, okay, without even thinking twice. You should be able to tell 8th century that happened, 15th century this thing happened. So for several centuries after the collapse of the Roman Empire in the West, the cities virtually disappeared in Western Europe, and foreign and inland trade received a severe setback. This period in Western Europe is called the Dark Age. Okay, historians call it as the Dark Age because the trade also fell. However, from the 10th century onwards, trade and with it the city life began to revive. Between the 12th and 14th century, Western Europe was again able to attain a high level of prosperity. A notable feature of the period was the growth of science and technology, growth of towns, and establishment of universities in a number of cities such as Padua and Milan in Italy. Okay, this for mains, geography optionals and all, you should know these places. Okay, geography and history optionals. Okay, Padua and Milan, when you hear, you should know it is in Italy. The universities played an important role in the growth of new learning and new ideas, which were gradually to lead to the Renaissance and the rise of New Europe. Okay, Renaissance you should know, like it's like a revival or rebirth, you can tell. Okay, after the Dark Age. Now, growth of feudalism. Okay, it's a very important term, feudalism. Mains question have come. Okay, in optionals especially, so should know what is feudalism. A new type of society and new system of government rose in Western Europe following the breakup of the Roman Empire. The new order that gradually emerged is called feudalism. This is derived from Latin word feudum, which is translated into English as fief. Okay, F-I-E-F. Okay, so it's just a Latin word, and this is the English word. Okay, in this society, the most powerful elements were the chiefs, who, with their military following, dominated large tract of land and also played an important role in the government. Okay, so this like after the king, there are chiefs. Okay, the military chiefs and all, they will get land grants and they will become landowners and they will become the more powerful kind of people in the society. Okay, like later in India you will also learn the Mansabdar system, then a lot of such things where the chiefs will become more powerful than the king, and that is how the most of the kingdoms will collapse. So that story all started in the world. Okay, the whole global phenomena, it was like this feudal system which began in the 8th century or 10th century, you can tell. Okay, after the collapse of Roman Empire. Now the king was just like one of the more powerful feudal chiefs. Okay, so now it's like what to say, all are like equals, all are like chiefs only, but king is one notch higher because of the monarch position. In course of time, the monarchy became stronger, and an attempt was made to limit the power of the chiefs. One method of doing so was that the king swore the chiefs to an oath of loyalty to him as his vassal, and in return recognized the tract of land dominated by the chiefs as their fiefs. Okay, so it's like kings also understood like these people are all growing in power, the chief. So what they happened is an oath of loyalty was made. Okay, forced upon them. They should take it, and they will become this vassal. Okay, this vassal, if you try to find out the meaning, it is like something like subordinate. Okay, so it's like even though how much ever powerful you become, you are not the king or you are not the most powerful person. You are subordinate to the king only. Okay, like vassal states and all we tell, it's like under something. Okay, it is like subordinate to something. So that is how this term is. So that is the thing which they did. One of the method. The chief in turn could appoint sub-chiefs as vassals and allot a tract out of their fief to them. The king could in theory resume the fief of a disloyal vassal. Okay, so the king had the powers to take the land also and give away the land also. So but in practice it was rarely done. Even though power was there, king usually did not do it. Thus in the feudal system, government was dominated by a landed aristocracy. The aristocracy was hereditary and tried its best not to admit outsiders to its fold, but it was never a completely closed aristocracy. Okay, so it's like we cannot tell it's perfect kind of system, but usually it was like hereditary. Okay, this was the feudal system in the broadest outline. There are many similarities between the system and system of government and society evolved by the Turks in Central Asia and by the Rajputs in India. As the system developed, it assumed various forms in different countries due to differences in conditions and traditions. In Europe, the feudal system is associated with two other features. Okay, first is the system of serfdom. A serf was a peasant who worked on this land on the land but could not change his profession or migrate to any other area or marry without the permission of the lord or the master. So it's like kind of a slave kind of role, slave peasant you can tell. Okay, that is a serf. Okay, he is doing the job of a peasant but he does not have any rights. Okay, everything is as per the lord or master decides. So that is the serf, or the system is called serfdom. Associated with this was system of the manor. Okay, manor. The manor was the house or castle where the lord lived. Okay, so it's like 2-3 terms. Okay, we saw this feudal term, we saw serfdom, and now this one. In many of the European countries, large tracts of land were owned by the lords of these manors. A part of the land was cultivated by the lord directly with the help of serfs who had to divide their time between cultivating their own fields and the fields of their master. Okay, so they had their own field also, but these people were like to and fro working in both the fields. Now, since the land belonged theoretically to the lord, the serf had to pay him other dues in cash and kind. The lord of the manor also had the responsibility of maintaining law and order, dispensing justice, etc. Since there was a great deal of lawlessness in those days, even free peasants were sometimes prepared to accept the vassalage of the lord of the manor in return for protection. So again, round and round, they're telling the same thing. Okay, the king is the most powerful, then this chief's vassal is there, and under them the serfs are there. Okay, serfdom. Some historians think that the system of serfdom and the manor system are vital parts of feudalism, and that it is wrong to speak of feudalism for societies in which these two do not exist. In India, for instance, there was no serfdom and no manor system as such, but the local landed elements, okay, samantas and all, many times I myself have taught you. Okay, samantas exercised many of the powers of the feudal lords, and the peasantry was in a dependent position to them. In other words, what mattered was not whether the peasantry was formally free, but the manner and extent in which it could exercise its freedom. Okay, so it's all about that freedom concept which they are explaining. In many countries of Western Europe, the manor system and the system of labor dues by the peasants disappeared after the 14th century. So all these things are like that dark age. Okay, 8th century, 9, 10, 11. That is the time when all these things are happening, different kinds of systems. The second feature associated with the feudal system in Europe is the system of military organization. The most typical symbol of the feudal system was the armored knight on horseback. Okay, you would have seen in movies and cartoons and all these things. Okay, armored knight, how it looks like. So actually, the system of cavalry warfare can roughly be traced back in Europe only to the 8th century. Okay. In the Roman times, the chief wings of the army were the heavy and light infantry armed with long spears and short swords. So again, they are going into a lot of detailing, which is not at all important for our exam sake. Okay, I'm just reading through it. Horses were used to draw chariots in which the officers rode. It's generally believed that the mode of warfare changed with the arrival of the Arabs. The Arabs had a large supply of horses, and their swift movement and mounted archers made the infantry useless. Okay, so first it was cavalry system, then horses system came, Arabs also came, so things started changing. Okay, the problems of developing and maintaining the organization needed for the new mode of warfare helped in the growth of feudalism in Europe. Again, telling the same thing. Okay, feudalism grew. No king could hope to maintain out of his own resources the large body of cavalry needed and to provide them with armor and equipment. Hence, the army was decentralized, assigning to the fief holders the responsibility of maintaining a fixed force of cavalry, and infantry was service of the king. This is exactly the mansab system which you will learn later. Okay, the king could not handle everything because of the huge expenses, so it was decentralized. Okay, so the chiefs will be now having their own army, and they will be assisting the king for battles. Now, cavalry warfare became the principal mode of warfare on account of two inventions which, though much older, began to be used on a larger scale during this period. The first was the iron stirrup. Okay, the iron stirrup, when you sit on a horse and you have to support your feet, there will be a thing like the kind of thing where you place your feet. That is called this iron stirrup. Okay, the support. So the iron stirrup made it possible for a heavily armored person to ride on a horse without falling off. Okay, so it's just that place where where the horse rider will keep his feet. Okay, which will hold him on that. So it also made possible a cavalry charge with lances held tightly to the body without the rider being thrown off by the shock of the impact. The earlier device was either a wooden stirrup or a piece of rope which only provided a toe hold. Okay, so earlier it was like that, and later it became this iron stirrup kind of thing. So thus it was not difficult for infantry to face the charge of heavy cavalry. The second invention was a new type of harness which enabled a horse to draw twice the amount of load it pulled. Okay, so a harness system. So an iron stirrup and harness is something which changed the whole thing to the horse system. Okay, from cavalry to horse. So it is believed that both these inventions came to Europe from the east, possibly from East Asia, and that they spread in India from the 10th century onwards. So it's telling the spread across the world. Thus, many factors, political, economic, and military, were responsible for the growth of feudalism in Europe. Even when strong governments emerged after the 11th century, the traditions had become too strong for the king to easily reduce the power of the feudal chiefs. So, this feudal chiefs, once it became powerful, it is difficult to take it back. Okay. So, any essay kind of question, anything you get about feudalism, I think this will be the best source. Okay. Use this as the best source. Apart from the system of feudalism, the pattern of life in Europe during what is called the medieval period was also shaped by the Christian church. We have already referred to the role of Greek Orthodox Church in the Byzantine Empire and in Russia. In the absence of powerful empire in the West, the Catholic Church took on some of the functions of the government as well. The Pope, who was the head of the Catholic Church, became not only a religious head, but one who exercised a great deal of political and moral authority as well. So now the church is also having a lot of importance. For the medieval age in Europe, as in West Asia and India, was an age of religion, and those who spoke on behalf of religion exercised a great deal of power and influence. With the help of grants of land from the princes and feudal chiefs and donations from rich merchants, many monastic orders and monasteries were set up. Some of these orders, such that of the Franciscans, served the needy and the poor. Many monasteries gave medical help or shelter to the travelers. They also served as center for education and learning. In this way, the Catholic Church played an important role in the cultural life of Europe. Okay, UPSC will pick this exact statement and ask you, okay, Catholic Church played an important role in the cultural life of Europe. Elaborate. Okay, so what you need to write is this last one paragraph and then more information which you learned from other sources. Okay, that is what UPSC will do. They'll take the conclusion statement or the beginning statement of any particular section of the textbook and they'll ask you. Okay, so it's a direct question from your basic textbooks only. So, but when you see it in a question paper, you will think like it's a very difficult question. So, however, some of the monasteries which became exceedingly wealthy began to behave like feudal lords. This led to internal discord and conflict with the rulers who resented the worldly power of the church and of the popes. Okay, so again we shall study about this later. Okay, that they are telling. So it's like first we told about the military chiefs who became powerful. Now we are telling about the church who is powerful. Okay, that's about Europe. Now we'll go to Arab world, because you know Muslim or Islam, it came later. Okay, it's a newest religion, you can tell. All the other religions have origin in the time of this, BC. Okay, before Christianity, but this is like AD. Okay, so that is why it is the newest one. The rise of Islam was instrumental in uniting the warring Arab tribes into a powerful empire. The Arab Empire, founded by early caliphs, embraced, apart from Arabia, Syria, Iraq, Iran, Egypt, North Africa and Spain. Okay, so many places. Okay, it's like emerging. Following internal disturbances and civil wars, which is actually happening now also, civil wars among the Arab tribes, the Abbasids came to power as caliphs at Baghdad in the middle of the 8th century. The Abbasids claimed to belong to the same tribe to which Prophet Muhammad belonged. Okay, and were for that reason considered holy. Okay, so that is why this particular tribe or this particular group is considered as religious or holy. Okay, for about 150 years, the Abbasid Empire was one of the most powerful and flourishing empire. At its height, it included all important centers of civilization in the area, namely parts of North Africa, Egypt, Syria, Iran, and Iraq. The Abbasids controlled not only some of the most productive countries of West Asia and North Africa, but also commanded the important trade routes linking the Mediterranean world with India and China. The safety and security which the Abbasids provided to these trade routes was an important factor for the wealth and prosperity of the people in the area and of the splendor and magnificence of the Abbasid court. Okay, so they are like very strong even, and they are the ones who are controlling the trade routes also. Okay, the whole prosperity depends on them. The Arabs were keen merchants and quickly emerged as the most enterprising and wealthy merchants and seafarers in the world during the period. Numerous cities with magnificent buildings, both private and public, arose. The standard of living and the cultural environment of the Arab towns could hardly be paralleled in any country in the world during the period. Okay, so it's like fully prosper. Okay, nothing much to take away. The most famous caliphs of the period was Al-Mamun and someone. Okay, Harun al-Rashid. It's not important. The splendor of their court and their palaces and of their patronage to men of science and learning became subjects of numerous stories and legends. During the early period, the Arabs displayed a remarkable capacity of assimilating the scientific knowledge and administrative skills of the ancient civilization they had overrun. They had no hesitation in employing non-Muslims such as Christians and Jews, and also non-Arabs, particularly the Iranians, many of whom were Zoroastrians and even Buddhists, for running the administration. Okay, so they're telling like Arabs are the ones who are growing in power. They are the ones who are flourishing. Okay, some people name and all they mentioned, but they employ the other ones also, the non-Muslims also. Okay, Christians, Buddhists, everyone. Now, although the Abbasid caliphs were orthodox Muslims, they opened wide the gate of learning from all quarters as long as it did not challenge the fundamental tenets of Islam. Okay, so it's like they are not, even though they are orthodox, they did not push away other religions and all. Okay, only the fundamentalism was kept alive. The Caliph Al-Mamun set up the House of Wisdom. Okay, something at Baghdad, which we already saw this name. So I don't think it's important. Again, they are telling a lot of things here. Examples set by caliphs, followed by individual nobles. Not important. Okay, then the scientific works. Okay, scientific works were available in Arabic now. Okay, new language, new inventions, new theories, everything is in Arabic now. We know a good deal about the impact of Greek science and philosophy on the Arabs, largely due to the work done in recent years by a devoted band of European scholars. Okay, so there is an influence of Greek onto Arabs. We are also beginning to have a better idea of the impact of Chinese science and philosophy on the Arab world. Okay, so from the east and west, both side influence is there. Many Chinese inventions such as the compass, paper printing, gunpowder, and even the humble wheelbarrow traveled from China to Europe via the Arabs during this period. Okay, so because the geographical location of this Middle East is in the center, that is why it will be like a connecting point between both Europe and China. Okay, the famous Venetian traveler Marco Polo traveled to China in order to know more about it and to breach the Arab monopoly of Europe's trade with China. Okay, so Marco Polo is one of the very important trader. Okay, that time from Europe he traveled to different parts. Okay. Unfortunately, we have only a limited knowledge of India's economic and cultural relation with the Arab world during the period and India's scientific contribution to it. Okay, so this time, this 8th, 10th century and all, very limited knowledge is there. Okay, we don't have much sources. The Arab conquest of Sindh in the 8th century did lead to the establishment of closer cultural relation between the Arabs and the rest of India. Okay, the decimal system, which is the basis of modern mathematics and which had developed in India in the 5th century, traveled to Arab during this period. Okay, around 8th century, that is when this decimal system which started in India in 5th century, okay, that will go there. Okay, Aryabhatta time. During 9th century, it was popularized in the region of the Arab mathematician. Okay, again Al-Khwarizmi, one person. Okay, one Arab mathematician, not important. It was introduced to Europe in the 12th century by a monk, Abelard, and became known as the system of Arab numerals. Okay, so the Arab numerals is important, but his personality names and all not required. Okay. Many Indian works dealing with astronomy and mathematics were also translated into Arabic. The famous work on astronomy, Surya Siddhanta, which had been revised and reformed by Aryabhatta, was one of these. Okay, this actually yesterday when I took R.S. Sharma last chapter, actually these things are all mentioned. Okay, so this chapter is exactly a beginning which you need for medieval India. So it's actually connecting also. So watch that series and then watch it. Okay, watch this one. So you'll be having a better idea of what all these things are. Now, works of Charaka, Sushruta dealing with medicines were all translated. Indian traders and merchants continued to visit the marts of Iraq and Iran, and Indian physicians and master craftsmen were received at the Caliph's court at Baghdad. A number of Sanskrit literary works, such as Kalila, something, okay, actually it's the Panchatantra they are referring to, okay, were also translated into Arabic and formed the basis of Aesop's fable in the West. Okay, so this Aesop's fable is actually famous in the West and Panchatantra in the East. So it's actually taken reference from here. Okay, a detailed study of the impact of Indian sciences and philosophy of the Arab world and the Arab sciences on Indian during the subsequent period is now being made. So now is when people are trying to find out, okay, the actual connections. By the beginning of the 10th century, the Arabs had reached the stage when they could make their own contribution to the various sciences. The growth of geometry, algebra, geography, astronomy, optics, chemistry, medicine, etc. in the Arab world during the period made it the leader in the field of science. Some of the best stocked libraries in the world and the leading scientific laboratories are established in the Arab world during this period. Okay, so they were like scientifically much ahead. Okay, even like in trade, everything. Okay, they were prospering. So necessary to remember that many of these achievements were a result of work done by the people outside Arabia. Okay, in Khorasan, Egypt, Spain, etc. So people outside this thing is working, but it is Arabia, as I told, is a connecting route. Okay, so that is why it's flourishing here. The Arab science was truly international. It had been called Arab science because Arabic was the language of literature and taught in the entire area, and people from various countries could move freely and work or settle down anywhere they liked. The remarkable degree of intellectual and personal freedom enjoyed by the scientists and scholars, as well as the patronage extended to them, was an important factor in the remarkable growth of Arab science and civilizations. Such freedom was not available in Europe at that time due to its rigid attitude of Christian church. Perhaps conditions in India were similar, for hardly any of the Arab sciences could filter into India, and growth of science in India began to slow down during this period. Okay, so it's overall, because we are learning about Arab, it's telling about the flourishing side of Arabian. Okay, we are nowhere telling about good things which happened in India. Okay, it's all telling like Arab followed it or Arab influenced it, like that we are discussing all the things. Arab science declined after the 14th century, partly due to political and economic developments affecting the area, but even more on account of growing orthodoxy, which stifled free thought. Okay, so like when religion comes high, science will obviously go down. So that is what happened. That was one of the reasons. So we saw Europe, we saw Arab. Now we'll see Africa. The Arabs also brought Africa more actively into the Indian Ocean and Middle East trade. Arab migrants and mercantile activity along the east coast of Africa, where you have this Somalia region and all. Okay, Somalia, Ethiopia, increased enormously, extending up to Malindi, Zanzibar, etc. The Arab trade included a large scale export of slaves to West Asia and North Africa. So this is again why the connection happens. Okay, gold, ivory, etc. So like now there are places like Gold Coast, Ivory Coast and all. Okay, even though they have officially other names, there are places which are known like this in Africa, in different sites. In Africa, there was a powerful kingdom of long standing, Ethiopia, which had many towns. The Ethiopians were engaged in the Indian Ocean trade across Aden to India. Okay, these are all geography. Okay, you should, when we read these itself, you should be able to picturize where is Ethiopia, where is the Gulf of Aden. Okay, many of the Ethiopians called Habshish were Christians. They were closely allied to the Byzantine Empire in the Indian Ocean. The economic trade position of Ethiopia weakened with the decline of Byzantine Empire following the rise of the Ottomans in the 15th century. Okay, so different these things also now you should be knowing, like 8th century who declined, 14th century who declined, 14th century who came to power, which all countries, what all is happening. Okay, the science is growing in Arabia, trade, slave trade is happening in Africa. So these are all things like pointers which you should have in mind. Okay, you should not forget these things, because when a question comes like explain about the medieval transition from ancient to medieval across the world or something, you have to write all these things. Okay, that is why this chapter is important. Now East and Southeast Asia. Okay, I think this is the last one. I don't know whether one more page is there. So China's society and culture had attained a climax in the 8th and 9th century under Tang rule. Okay, the Tang rulers extended their overlordship over large parts of Xinjiang in Central Asia. Okay, Xinjiang, I think it is the modern Xinjiang province. Okay, which is there in news because of the CPEC. Okay, China-Pakistan corridor. We know Xinjiang province. So that maybe the older name is Xinjiang. Okay, this helped in giving a fillip to the overland trade across what is called the Silk Road. Now, not only silk, but fine quality porcelain and works in jade, a semi-precious stone, were exported to West Asia. Okay, it's about now full about China. Okay, Silk Road, which now they are trying to revive the maritime Silk Route and all. So about the precious stone, the whatever they traded and all. Europe and India around, West Asia, Europe and India across this road. Foreign traders were welcome in China. Many of them, Arabs, Persians and Indians, came to South China across the seas and settled down in Canton. Okay, so one more place. The Tang Empire declined in the middle of the 9th century and was replaced in the 10th century by another dynasty, the Sung dynasty, okay, which ruled over China for about 100 years. Its growing weakness gave an opportunity to the Mongols to conquer China in the 13th century. The Mongols wrought great death and destruction in China, but due to their highly disciplined and mobile cavalry forces, the Mongol rulers were able to unify North and South China under one control for the first time. So these Mongolians, that time, Mongolia is like a small country now near China. These people could control and then unite. Okay, this China, North and South. For some time, they also brought under their sway Tonkin, okay, North Vietnam, okay, and Annam, South Vietnam. So this, I don't think UPSC will ask now, but in the 96, 97 time and all, UPSC used to ask even very weird kind of terminologies like this. Okay, you should know this. So this Tonkin and Annam, okay, this is actually referring to North and South Vietnam. If you want to make a note, because I don't think you will again recollect it or something, or you will watch this full video to again learn these things. So these kind of things you can note it down and just read it later. Because 2 times you read it, it will be automatically memorized. Thus, the Mongols established one of the largest empire in East Asia. The Venetian traveler Marco Polo, who spent some time at the court of Kublai Khan, the most famous of the Mongol rulers of China, has left a picturesque account of the court. Marco Polo returned to Italy by sea, visiting Malabar in India on the way. Okay, so this Indian visit and all already we have covered in a lot of places, so you should be knowing. Thus, already different parts of the world were coming closer together and their commercial and cultural contacts were increasing. The countries of Southeast Asia had to meet the expansionist urges of some of the Chinese rulers. China, okay, so that time until China has this expansion policies and all. So China had developed a strong navy by this time. But during most of the time, the Southeast Asia states remained independent. 2 most powerful kingdoms which flourished in the region during the period was Sailendra and Kamboja Empire. Okay, this Cambodia is actually the Cambodia, okay, which we have now. Sailendra Empire, which arose in the 7th century and largely displaced the Sri Vijaya Empire, flourished till the 10th century. Okay, so the Sailendra, Sri Vijaya, these things, and when you hear next time, you should obviously know it is in the Southeast Asia. At its height, the empire included Sumatra, Java, the Malaya Peninsula, parts of Siam, that is modern Thailand, and even the Philippines. Okay, according to the 9th century Arab writer, the empire was so large that even the fastest vessel could not complete a round trip of it in 2 years. Okay, so that much big it is. Okay, 2 years it will take to do a round trip in that Sailendra empire. Sailendra rulers had a powerful navy and dominated the sea trade to China. The Pallavas of South India also had a powerful navy. Okay, the India, I told you already in ancient history when we were learning, they had a powerful navy. Okay, Pallavas, Cholas and all. As before, India had close trade and cultural contacts with the countries of this area. Okay, many Chinese and Indian scholars visited Palembang, okay, the capital of this empire, which was located in Sumatra and which had been a Sanskrit and Buddhist center of study even earlier. The rulers built magnificent temples during this period, the most famous of them being the Temple of Borobudur. I told you this again yesterday also, Borobudur in I think Java. Okay, it is a whole mountain carved into 9 stone terraces surmounted by a stupa. Indian epics such as Ramayana and Mahabharata continued to provide favorite themes for literature, folk art, puppet plays, etc. Okay, in our art and culture test series also I remember there is a question regarding this. Okay, this Borobudur temple in Indonesia. The Kamboja Empire extended over Cambodia and Annam. Okay, this Tonkin and Annam, please try to recollect. Okay, Tonkin and Annam is North and South Vietnam. So it replaced this Hinduist kingdom and dominated the area earlier. Again, telling a lot of kingdom names. It's not important for you to know kingdom names, but these place names which are older names you should know. The empire Cambodia flourished till the 15th century and attained a high level of cultural development and prosperity. Its most magnificent achievement may be considered a group of temples near Angkor Thom in Cambodia, Bengun in the 10th century. Each ruler built a new temple here to commemorate his memory. Till about 200 temples were built in the area. So they were like too much into temple building. Okay, that is the crux of this whole paragraph. Okay, Southeast Asia, especially this Cambodia empire, they had this temple building concept for different goddesses, everything. Even Ramayana, Mahabharata scenes, paintings and all will be there. This entire group of buildings have been completely forgotten by the outside world and have been largely taken over by the jungle till it was discovered by a Frenchman in 1860. Okay, so this Europeans is one who will discover most of the things. Okay, even in India they found out a lot of things. So it is interesting to note that the most vigorous period of temple building activity was the period from the 10th to the 12th century, which was also the most magnificent period of temple building activity in India. So in India and Southeast Asia, the 10th to 12th century is known for temple building. Many Indian traders went to South China after traveling overland from the port of Takala in the Malay Peninsula to Chinese Sea. Okay, this Takala port and all. History optional students, please make a note. Okay, they will ask you this. Okay, many Brahmanas and later Buddhist monks settled there. While Buddhism declined in India, the land of its birth, it flourished in Southeast Asia. This also I told you yesterday, like Buddhism started in India but did not flourish in India. In course of time, it assimilated the Hindu gods into Buddhist fold and even took over the Hindu temples, a movement opposite to what was happening in India at that time. Okay, so in India actually Buddhism is going away. Southeast Asia Buddhism is flourishing. Thus India had close commercial and cultural contacts both with West and Southeast Asia. Okay, so this also UPSC will ask the same statement. Okay, India had close commercial cultural with this West and East. So elaborate. They'll ask elaborate. So you will have to write this full chapter. Okay. So the various kingdoms in Southeast Asia acted as a kind of bridge for commercial and cultural contacts between India and the outside world with the China with China. Okay, though deeply influenced by Indian civilization and culture, they were able to attain a distinctive culture of their own of a very high order. Arab traders who had been trading with South India and with the countries of Southeast Asia earlier became very active after the establishment of Abbasid Empire. But the Arabs did not displace the Indian traders and preachers, nor did they make any special effort to convert the people of the area to Islam. So that time there is no forced conversion or nothing. Okay, they are just coming, trading, and then any kind of people who are ready to work will be hired. Okay, in different places, they will be allocated, they will be allotted into different sections. Thus, a remarkable degree of religious freedom and tolerance and the commingling of various cultures mark these countries, characteristics which they had retained even today. The conversion of Indonesia and Malaya to Islam took place gradually after Islam had consolidated position in India. So in India, Islam came first and then only to the Southeast Asia. Okay. Elsewhere, Buddhism continued to flourish. Commercial and cultural contacts between India and these countries were snapped only with the establishment of the Dutch in Indonesia, of the English in India. So these are all modern history part. Okay, who all ruled where all. Okay. So like this is the story. That's why I'm telling this chapter is not as such very important for prelims, but it's like a understanding or entry into your medieval learning. What was happening in the 8th to 15th century across the world, you will have an idea now. I have tried to pause and tell you which all lines were important. So hope you got an idea. These questions which you see, you can read it because it will be anyway easy for you because you are seeing it right now just after listening to the lecture. But later when you see, maybe it will be difficult. So I'm not reading it out, just pause it and read. Okay, please read it before you exit this video. Okay, So like this we'll continue different chapters. I think the next chapter is this one, okay, Northern India, age of 3 empires. Okay, so we'll do that. The Pratihara Empire, Gujar Pratihara, these all things will be there. Kanauj triangle, so that we'll discuss in the next video. I'm not sure when I'll be able to record because I am busy with the test series, as I told. So meanwhile the test series is there, prelims is obviously there. Means in 1 or 2 days if people are enrolling, we can accommodate you in the batch 2. There will be no batch 3. Okay, and different lectures, whatever I told you in the last time, also try to explore everything. If you are a new student in Vysh IAS, try to explore all the playlists, okay, because there are enough and more content which is needed for your UPSC preparation of every stage, okay, for beginner, for experienced, for veteran, for everyone. We have different kind of playlist and different very resourceful playlists, okay, so please make use of it. Okay, this is the main test series which I told you, batch 2, which is happening now, February mid till end. So if you join immediately, you can be part of it. Okay, and this is the prelims thing which I told. The full package is one which is suited for a UPSC student, a serious UPSC student. Others, if you want just one subject, you can go for the mini package. Okay, so I will come up with the next video soon. Thank you and have a nice day.